The Las Vegas Raiders have just picked up their first victory of the 2022 season, and we do know that it is just preseason, but preseason happens for a reason. And this was a very meaningful game because you saw a lot of people who were going to be on the field during the regular season in this game. In this game, you saw probably the most controversial thing that happened all night, something that got the whole world talking in terms of social media around the Las Vegas Raiders and the NFL, and that's the fact that Josh Jacobs played in this game at all and played for a significant amount of time in the first quarter. We're going to get into Josh Jacobs, his situation with the Raiders. We're also going to break down the rest of the stats happening in this preseason game, who balled out, who struggled a little bit, and what we can expect in the next preseason game against the Minnesota Vikings. Trevor Lawrence looking like Trevor Lawrence. You see that image of him there, but the final score 11-27. As we kick it off, we're going to look at the defense here, who had some decent stats. Now, Darian Butler did lead the team in tackles. He's a linebacker who's had a little bit of buzz in training camp. You saw him actually running with the ones, but when you saw how this preseason game shook out, Darian Butler really didn't hit the field until the second half. So I still think he is about third string on the depth chart. Trevor Lawrence and Tom Brady looking suave there as well.
Oh, no,
either way,
sorry.
Darian Butler, I believe, had a couple missed tackles and had a couple situations where, you know, it made it seem like the moment was slightly ahead of him. Maybe there was just some first game jitters, but I think Darian Butler will be able to pick it up the more we go on throughout the season. Now, the guy that I was most excited about and the guy that did really well, in my opinion, was Bryce Cosby. You saw Bryce Cosby make some pretty tough tackles and a lot of great assistant tackles. Also had a pass deflection as well. And he did have a couple penalties. He had a pass interference penalty, but on the whole, the demeanor of Cosby was very vicious, played with a lot of aggression, and it just felt like when you watch the game that Cosby was going at a different speed than a lot of other players on the team. It just felt something in him and the way he moved on the field. You just felt like there was an extra pep in his step compared to a lot of these other players. And I also want to say, Darius Phillips, the cornerback, actually, our first free agent signing, Darius Phillips, because remember day one of free agency, the Raiders didn't make a move. We were kind of like, what is going on? Why aren't we making moves? Oh, but we signed Darius Phillips for a 1-year deal for $2 million. That was the first move. But you saw Darius Phillips with Tyree Gillespie force a fumble, make a lot of tough hits, really strong cornerback. Also saw him in the slot. So, you know, the slot cornerback typically tackles a lot more, typically a presence in the run game. I think Darius Phillips made a case for him to be perhaps the second string slot cornerback, because who knows who the first string slot cornerback is. You saw Nate Hobbs lining up on the outside at cornerback even when we were in the nickel defense. I thought that was very interesting as well, along with seeing Divine Diablo rolling with second team, along with Jayon Brown. I still think there is going to be a tough competition between Jayon Brown and Divine Diablo for that sub linebacker position. Divine Diablo picked up 3 tackles. Jayon Brown picked up 2 tackles as well. And also Isaiah Brown had a pass deflection. Neil Farrell Jr. was able to get on the field as well. Let's go ahead and check out some of these other offensive stats as well.
Let's see what's next.
And so the receiving game, and one thing that happened is Tyron Johnson, there was the toe drag. He made a really miraculous catch. Had about 2 receptions for 39 yards, led the team in receiving yards, 5 targets, a lot of targets, couple drops, and also, you know, a couple bad throws from Jarrett Stidham. But I think as a whole, Jarrett Stidham solidified himself as the number 2 cornerback on the team. And we are going to perhaps talk about the press conference in another video later tonight. Right now, we're just breaking down an instant reaction of what happened with the Las Vegas Raiders. And the number one thing that happened was Zamir White popped. He popped at running back, clearly was able to break tackles, truck several defenders. You saw him pick up 3 receptions as well for 23 yards. But Josh Jacobs, I mean, was really the most impressive player because he was playing with a lot of guys who, in my opinion, he's significantly better than. And Josh Jacobs had 2 receptions for 14 yards. Let's go ahead And by the way, glad that Keelan Cole is okay.
Yes.
He had that one catch for 31 yards. Rough helmet to helmet that happened against Keelan Cole.
Oof.
And thankfully he was smiling and all laughs because we thought something bad happened.
It was bad.
It was bad. Let's go ahead and get to these rushing stats. I want to check them out. Demarcus Robinson, by the way, the receiver, played a little bit later. It wasn't really the second string. I would say he was more relegated to third team. Matt Collins was out there in the beginning of the preseason game, but honestly, we didn't see much from Matt Collins at all. Let's go ahead and get back to the stats.
Oh, God, sorry.
And so either way, Josh Jacobs, he was out there and playing with people who I think he's significantly better than. I thought it was odd to see Josh McDaniels even out there at all. Josh Jacobs out there at all. But you saw a quick conversation between Josh Jacobs and Josh McDaniels right before the game started. And it had me wondering, like, did McDaniels barely tell Jacobs about playing right before the game? You know, right before the game, did that happen? It felt like it. Like, hey, we're going to start the first drive with you. First two drives. I mean, honestly, Josh Jacobs played the first quarter. And the only running back who didn't play was Brandon Bolden, who Josh McDaniels knows from the New England Patriots last year. Drake was out there, struggled, to be honest. Look at the numbers. 5 carries for 9 yards. Obviously, Zamir White had the most carries. Walter, the recent free agent pickup. Honestly, that guy was doing really wealthy. And I don't know if it's because he's playing against the third string and all that, but that guy seemed like he had an extra pep in his step as well and some fire. Amir Abdullah, shifty, picked up the first touchdown for the Raiders during preseason. It was awesome to see. Very awesome to see. But Jacobs really is the story. And there's two things that could happen. There's two things. And there's the optimistic Raiders fan, and then there's a pessimistic Raiders fan. I'm both. Now, here's what's going on. Either Josh McDaniels just wants to test out all his running backs who he didn't coach last year. So everybody besides Brandon Bolden, he wanted to get them some action. Drake, Josh, Zamir, Abdullah, everybody else. Or Josh McDaniels is trying to send a message to the rest of the NFL that, hey, I'm putting this dude who you guys really like at running back, I'm putting him on the field right now during preseason because he's on the trade block. I mean, those are really the two options. Like, either pessimistic says that Jacob's on the trade block. Optimistic says, oh, he's just testing some things out, right? Josh McDaniels is just trying to see how Jacobs looks on the field. I don't know. To be completely honest, if you're going to ask WiFiWillie, you're going to ask my opinion. Josh McDaniels already knows how talented Josh Jacobs is. You got 3 years of film on the guy in the NFL with the Raiders. You don't need to see anything more, in my opinion. I don't think you do. I think something's up. I think something's going on. I think either he's trying to psychologically get into the head of Josh Jacobs and motivate him in a particular way, or he's advertised on the trade block. I hope it's the former and not the latter, because I think Josh Jacobs is a baller, and I think the Raiders are a better team and a Super Bowl contender with Josh Jacobs and not without. That's what I personally believe.
Would we have gotten to the playoffs without him? Ask yourself that question last year.
And there was Derek Carr didn't even throw for over 300 yards a game in the last 4 regular season games. It was mainly the running game that really helped us and the defense towards the end of last season to get us in the playoffs. Let's go to these passing stats as well. Check these out. But either way, it was great to see some preseason football already. You saw some people impressed. Jarrett Stidham, it turns out to be probably the number 2 quarterback, really solidified his role today. And he was really impressive. Didn't really have that much arm power. I would say there was a couple of throws that seemed underthrown. But what I think Jarrett Stidham did the best at is he hung in there in the pocket. And even when he knew he was going to get hit, he just stood in there, threw the ball, took the hit, and was able to land some really nice passes under pressure. You saw Keelan Cole grab one, Tyron Johnson as well. Nick Mullins struggled initially. There was the muff snap, and Chase Garbers came in and didn't really have too much of an opportunity. In my opinion, we're going to see a lot more Chase Garbers in the future. But guys, let me know in the comments, who was your favorite Raider player today in preseason? Who did you think shined and balled out? I have acid reflex like crazy right now.
The beer doesn't help.
Cosby, I was really impressed with just the energy. I was also really impressed with Alex Leatherwood, to be completely honest. Alex Leatherwood played pretty much the first half, and I think Leatherwood solidified himself as the starting right tackle of the Raiders for sure. I think he was a lot more impressive than people are giving him credit for. Brandon Parker obviously gave up a sack, and that stood out to a lot of people, and he's getting a lot of shade. But I think Leatherwood made a really good case, seemed confident. He was able to get a decent push on that right side and filled in when Jermaine Illuminor got hurt as well. So hope you guys enjoyed this post-game breakdown of the first preseason game. Like this video if you have not already, and subscribe to the Raiders Rundown for more Raiders content. We're going to keep dropping content all the time. We are live Tuesdays at 1:30 talking about the Las Vegas Raiders, and we will be live during every single preseason game. So peace out, and I hope you have a good one.